you have to if you spend a certain amount, and it gives you, it's like every 90 days or something. So they send me an email. They're like, yo, you have 3 more days to spend X amount to get the 30% discount or whatever it is. So I just go on there and I'm like, add to cart, add to cart. We're live, by the way. What's up? Did we just lose Ronald?
Wow, what timing.
He bailed at 4 o'clock.
He was heard you were going live and was like, I'm out of here.
He was hanging out here talking to us. As soon as we get live, it's like, I can't do it. I'm sure he'll pop back in a second. Hope everyone's doing well today. Someone said over under Kyle Hatz owns more than 20. Like, way more than 20. Way more than 20. I have more than 20 in each sport. All right, there's only 5 games to go through. I got Modai and Ronald's on as well, but there he is. He's back.
Did you kick me out? Like, what happened?
Yeah, bro. I've had it with your shit. I was like, you know what? Get out. No, I didn't kick you out, man. All right, so like I said, there's only 5 games, so we'll do what we can. Let's get it started with Hornets on the road at Orlando here. And I think this is the one where me and Ronald have a disagreement right off the bat, but I'm only on the total. The disagreement is if I was to take a side here, it would be Charlotte. And I believe Ronald is on Orlando here, right?
Yeah, I can only look their way. I think I know a couple of things on the Hornets side, right? That tell me maybe they have a chance. Is they have the revenge angle, they have the rest advantage, but other than that, to me, a lot of things really point towards the Magic here. If you look at the Magic as home favorites this season, I think they're actually the best against the number in the league in that spot. 16-2 straight up, 15-3 against the spread. They've also done well as double-digit favorites. I know on Ski Show he was like, "Oh well, how are they with these larger spreads?" Well, they're 5-1 against the spread. They did win those 5 games I think they won by 15 on the ones that they did cover. The one they didn't cover, they only won by 5, but they were on the first leg of back-to-back games. They were kind of like in a sandwich spot where they were looking ahead to a tougher opponent. So they kind of just did whatever they needed to do to get the win there. This is the largest number, but I think they've had numbers of 12, 11 and a half and stuff like that. So pretty tight, which kind of scared me off initially. But, the Hornets, man, they're missing a lot of pieces. One thing that I've been profitable at was the Hornets as double-digit dogs. 10 and 17 ATS, including 4 and 13 ATS when rested. For some reason, they struggle more when they're rested.
I saw that.
Which is kind of weird and funky, but the other piece that really pushed me over, because it was initially just a lean, but what pushed me over is how they dominate against these lower tier teams. I looked at how the Magic do against teams under 400, 21-2 straight up, 20-3 against the number there. And just looking at some of the efficiency stats, right, for the Hornets here, I feel like they're a little bit misleading, because if you look at some of the more recent games, right, they lost to the shorthanded Sixers. I don't think they had Harris or obviously Embiid. They ended up losing that one by 11. At home against the Suns, they lost by 11, and the Suns, I believe, were on the second of back-to-back games. They beat the Grizzlies, who were on the second of back-to-backs, and I believe the Grizzlies were coming off an outright win, so somewhat of a letdown spot there. They lost to the Pistons by 17, who have a worse record than they do, and then they struggled against Nets, who, actually they beat a Nets team that's been struggling recently, and they also had they were on the first leg of back-to-back games. They had the Cavs the next day. And they lost to the Wizards by 12, so you can kind of go on and on with the recent form, but for the most part, a lot of things really pointed towards the Magic really just being able to cover this large number here.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you said. No question, Orlando's first of all, they're the best team ATS in the league, period. You don't have to add anything onto that sentence. They've been the most profitable team to bet this year, and they've been by far the best team to bet at home laying points as home favorites. That being said, we haven't seen Orlando in positions where they're laying 12, 13 points many times. They haven't really been here. This is relatively uncharted territory. But still, I completely understand why he would be on the Magic. Personally, I'm on the under, though. Let's see if I have a graphic for it. I don't think I do. No, so I'm just going to put the under. Where is it? There it is. So I'll put this up. This is what I did bet. I got in at 204, and I like this bet. This is probably my favorite bet of the night. That being said, I didn't bet anything heavy tonight. So my favorite bet of the night tonight would be like my 4th favorite bet of a different night. It's a favorite bet because we're kind of slim pickings here. But I like this under. Charlotte's defense, if you look recent sample size, last 5 games, last 10 games, the Hornets have been playing some good defense. Both these teams play a snail's pace. 2 of the slowest paced teams in the NBA. I expect a lot of half-court basketball, not a lot of fast breaks. And look, say what you want about the Magic. Offense hasn't been great. They don't shoot the three-point shot well. What they do is attack the rim and get to the foul line. I don't know how much they're going to be able to exploit that. In the last 5 games, Hornets are 3rd in defensive efficiency at the basket. So not saying the Hornets have elite rim protection by any stretch. It's only 5 games, but recently they have been protecting the rim. But here's the kicker. There is one area where Orlando struggles, and it's protecting the basketball. They turn the ball over a lot. In the last 5 games, Charlotte, 3rd defensively in forced turnover rate. So this Hornets defense is ripping turnovers recently. Last 5 games, last 10 games. Orlando has an amazing record against the spread, except when they play teams in the top 5 of forced turnover rate, they're just 1-6 against the spread. So if there's one spot where Orlando has struggled to cover the number, it's against defenses that rip turnovers, and the Hornets have been ripping turnovers. So I would lean Charlotte. I mean, it's almost like really tough to lay 13 points when the total of the game is 203. What are the odds makers saying? 85 points from the Hornets covers this number? Like, so yeah, I would lean towards Charlotte and the points, but I am on the under.
Before we move on real quick, before we move to Modi, I think one thing I saw in the chat was how often do the Magic win by margin, right? So I'm looking at the database right now. So when they're at home as favorites and when they win, there's 16 instances here. Out of the 16, 11 of them were by 13 or more points. So that's just one thing to add to that question that was brought up in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sure they do win plenty by margin. It's just that we don't see a lot of instances where they're actually laying this big of a number. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. All right, Mr. Modi. First of all, how did your props do yesterday? I didn't even check to see who won the prop off.
I don't know who won the prop off. I did okay. I think I would have done really well. I got screwed by like a crazy Darius Garland. He ended with 7 assists. 6 of them came in the 3rd quarter. So like, if that didn't happen, I would have had an awesome day. But I was like up like a little less than half a unit yesterday. So
green is green, man.
Yeah, I won't apologize for a profitable day. All right, for this one, I have Gary Harris over 1.5 made 3-pointers. You can get it at -108 now, and I would still take it at that number. So I think this is the first time I've bet on Gary Harris like in my entire life, and I did not wake up on a Tuesday morning and say like I'm going to fire up Gary Harris props. It just kind of came to me when I was researching this, because over the past 10 games, the Hornets really haven't been able to guard the 3-point line that well. Again, look at the last 10 games. The areas in which they've been the weakest is corner threes and catch and shoot 3-pointers. Now, there is a correlation there, but over the past 10 games, they're allowing literally the most made corner 3-pointers in the NBA on the 3rd most attempts. So you can say maybe there is some bad luck there, but one thing that I've been doing more of recently is looking at how many wide open 3-pointers teams are allowing. Because if teams are allowing a ton of wide open shots, but their opponent isn't making them,
they're eventually going to.
That's considered exactly. And the Hornets, they're allowing the 3rd most wide open 3-pointers in the NBA in this span. So it's not like they're having bad luck. They're just allowing dudes to shoot from a wide open, like as they're wide open. They're also allowing the 5th most made catch and shoot 3-pointers over the past 10 games on the 2nd most attempts. So a little bit of good luck in that perspective. And then on the Magic, like again, over the past 10 games, Gary Harris is taking both the most catch and shoot and the most corner threes for the Magic. He's tied for the most made corner threes, and he leads the team. Or sorry, he makes the most corner threes, and he's tied for the most catch and shoot. I also like the fact he's been hot recently from deep. He's cashed the over 1.5 in 7 of his last 10, but he literally, his last game, he went 1 of 7 from deep. So we're getting him off of a bad shooting game, which I always think that's going to swing back the next day. And I like the fact that he put up 7 attempts. So 7 attempts and last game, and against the matchup where he should have a ton for him is like if he gets a 5, I'm happy. Catch and shoot, corner 3 opportunities. So yeah, Gary Harris, welcome. Welcome as my first time bet on him. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the squad, Gary Harris.
Yeah.
So it looks like the community agrees with Ronald as far as their pick against the number here. 52%, 26% in favor of Orlando, which I would expect. I mean, I don't imagine there's a ton of you out there jumping at the opportunity to bet the Charlotte Hornets, who I think are just 2-7 against the number in their last 9, something like that. So I get it. I'm comfortable on my under, though. So let's move on to the next game here. Let me clear the board. Houston at Washington. And actually, judging by the graphic I have here, I think me and Ronald see this game pretty similarly. Moda, you want to start this one out?
Sure. Yeah. So this is one that I admittedly don't have any money on myself. So I would categorize this one as a lean as opposed to an official play. But it's Jalen Green over his PRA. So it's over 36.5. It's actually minus 110 now. I think it opened at 34.5. So it's been bet up by a lot. This is like the most square play you could ever ask for. I think a ton of people are on it. And he's just been on fire, which coincides with Şengün being out. The reason why I'm not taking it myself is I generally don't like to bet off dudes who are coming off of like back-to-back career performances. But if you just look at the matchup and don't look at anything else, I mean, he should be able to just feast. It's the Washington Wizards. He just hung 37 on them. According to Courtside Pal, second most points to his shooting profile, fifth most to his scoring profile, literally the most rebounds and assists to his rebounding and playmaking style. Like everything screams him having just a blow-up game against this trash defense. With Şengün out of the lineup, he's the one that scores the most at the rim now on the Rockets. And that's where, I mean, the Wizards, like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet with guys getting to the rim. So again, if you don't look at any of the previous couple games for Green, you just look at the matchup itself, this would be a smash play. I just one of my like ethos is I would rather not play a bet that wins if I'm betting on a guy coming off of like back-to-back career performances. Like I'm willing to accept not putting my own money on that. But again, if you just look at the matchup, it's a great play.
All right, Jalen Green over, and he has been playing well. I mean, some of his highlights recently are crazy. Definitely playing probably the best basketball of his career, or at least since he first had that initial surge. I guess that was last year. So, Ronald, it seems like we're both circling overs in this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it correlates with Moda's play too. I like the Rockets team total over. Obviously, the Rockets well rested, somewhat of a letdown spot after beating Cleveland. But if you look at this Wizards team, I mean, they're just terrible. They lost 20 of their last 22, I believe. Failed to cover 7 of the last 9. They're somewhat of a fatigue spot as well, so that's going to affect their defense, playing 3rd and 4, 4th and 6th as well. I know Şengün is out. I mean, that I think a lot of people expected them to really struggle offensively, but if you look at this Wizards defense here, I think from a total perspective, the pace is up, both teams here. Defensively, one thing that I looked at was actually with all the people out or downgraded on their team, I wanted to look at different roster makeup. So like lineups, I took Denny out, I took Tyus Jones out. When both of those guys are out of the lineup, only a small 2-game sample size, but I think it's significant what I saw from them. 0-2 ATS, 2-0 to the over. They lost both games by 40 points. They lost 98 to 127 to the Bulls, 104, 140. I don't know what the number was, but I think they lost both games by like 40 points.
Lot.
One by 40, one by 41 or something like that. I don't know. And then, so obviously, I mean, Rockets are nowhere near what the Celtics are, but I do think that they're fairly close to the Bulls. And if they're able to do that, I mean, the Bulls is a team that you don't expect them to score like 120 plus on a game-to-game basis. But if they were able to do that against a team without Denny and Tyus, who to me are underrated players on that roster, I mean, I could see the Rockets doing it pretty easily, even without Şengün, especially with how fast they're playing recently. Because I think if you look at the last 5 to 10 games, I think they're both in the top 5 or top 3.
Both in the top three.
Both in the top 3 in pace. So pace up, in defense down. I mean, I got to look towards the Rockets team total over.
100%. So yeah, that I actually I probably would be on the same play. I didn't bet this game, but if you guys watched the video last night, I said that the total in the game, 228 or the Rockets team total over. Here's why I haven't officially pulled the trigger. Well, first of all, what he said, I agree with basically every single word. These two teams, maybe the 2 fastest paces in the NBA right now. They're both in the top 3 in the last 10. They're both in the top 4 in the last 5. Both these teams are running a billion miles an hour up and down the court. Well, add on the fact that Washington also has the worst defense against fast breaks in the NBA. Well, in efficiency-wise, they're 30th. So this is a Wizards team that can't stop the fast break against a Rockets team that's going to be sprinting nonstop. It's a nightmare for points. It's a recipe for points. I will say the reason I'm a little skeptical here, why is this total so low? 227.5, 228. These two teams just played Thursday, there was like 256 points or something scored in that game. The Rockets won like 130, 117 or something. I think it was even more than that. You know what? Let's get the exact number. They scored 1 billion points in that game, and we're looking at the matchup here.
Let's get the exact number. They scored 1 billion points.
It was somewhere, give or take 1 billion. I'll give you the exact number right now. So the final score of that game, 135-119. So we're talking 154 points scored just the other night between these two. Why is the total 228? I'm not seeing it. I don't know why I feel like I'm missing something of why this total's so low. So that's ultimately why I don't have any money on it, because I'm not seeing the angle for the other side. I don't know why you would bet an under here. I mean, I guess you could say the Rockets defense could hold Washington to a low number, but if they're playing at a super high pace, and look, Washington, yeah, they're injured as hell, but they attack the rim a lot, and Houston's defense without Şengün haven't been protecting the basket the same. They're actually back at 22nd protecting the rim in the last 5 games. So, I mean, I think the Wizards should score. I will say they were held to 10 fast break points on Thursday, and they're averaging over 26 a game. So the Rockets can potentially slow their fast breakdown, but I don't see the case for the under. And when I don't understand the line, it makes me a little nervous. So this is the way I would go. Rockets team total over, or the full game total over 228, but I'm not involved in it personally. All right. So 65%, 20%. Community heavily leaning towards Houston. Heavily. So you guys really like the Rockets here. And by the way, gun to my head, force me to pick a side against the spread, it would be Houston.
That's a scary proposition.
Yeah. Laying 9.5
points. A big number for the Rockets.
Yeah. Laying
on the road.
Laying 9.5 points on the road with Houston with no Şengün. If you told me I would be considering that a month ago, I'd be like, the hell's wrong with you? Pelly's Brooklyn. All right, so let's get Pelicans at 7.5 now. It was at 7, then went up to 8. It looks like it settled back in at 7.5. This is another one where we got a big road favorite here. Well, actually, Orlando's at home, so they haven't all been road favorites, but another pretty big road favorite, back-to-back games. You guys know, if you watch the video, I'm on the Pellies here. Ron, you want to go first in this one?
Yeah, I'm actually on the Pelicans too. Rest advantage on the Pelicans side. For the Nets here, I think they're in a pretty flat spot, 3rd and 4 nights. Plus, first game home off a long road trip. That's one thing that I like to look at from a schedule perspective. I know that it's like a little revenge, non-conference revenge, but I don't think it's really that important to them right now. Daniel Dyson is out for the Pelicans, but I think the one good news for the Pelicans here is Herb Jones was listed as probable for now. So hopefully he gets to play. But a lot of the things that I've looked at on this one is actually Pelicans. I took it both ways. Pelicans on the first half and the full game. Because if you look at the Pelican side, 29, 12, and 1 against the spread in the first half as favorites this season. The Nets are the opposite, right? 17, 24, and 1 as dogs. If you look at some of the other signals that are for this game, from a full game perspective, the Nets, they struggle offensively after OT games. Small sample size, 3-game samples, but after OT games, they scored 112 against an unrested Heat team that was without Bam, Butler, Harrow, and Duncan, and actually more guys too. They didn't really have their A squad was totally out of that game, but they only scored 112. They scored 102 against the Cavs, 103 against the Blazers. So offensively, they tend to struggle after OT games. They also struggle on the third game in 4 nights, especially as dogs here, 3, 6, and 1 ATS. If you look at the Pelican side, they do well against teams in fatigue spots. So they tend to take advantage of tired legs, 12, 7, and 1 ATS against teams on the 3rd and 4. They're also profitable in these non-conference road favorite situations. So they travel well, 5, 2, and 1 ATS. In those games that they do win, they're 7 and 1 straight up. The full game average margin in that is plus 15.5. And I have them, my model has them winning by double digits. So to me, like a lot of things are just pointing towards the Pelican side. And I ended up taking the first half and the full game.
Couldn't agree more. And I want to bring something up on the screen. Let me just find the graphic. This is what I was talking about last night. So if you watched, you already know what I'm about to say. But so first of all, let me put up Pelicans on the screen. I got in at 7. So I am holding the 7 ticket.
I got 7 too, yeah.
Yeah. So if you got in early, hopefully you got a 7. So I'm going to bring up the Brooklyn Nets schedule. And what I keep saying is the Nets need to get on the email the NBA and be like, what are you doing to us here? Look at this right here. This is the Nets' schedule right now. 6 road games in 11 days. So 6 road games in 11 days. That's what they just got finished with. They lost 5 of those 6. They return home for 1 home game against the Pelicans, a non-conference game. So it's not even like a big game or anything. They return home to play the Pelicans once, then immediately go back on the road for 4 against the Bucks, the Knicks, the Raptors, and the Wizards. All more important games than this one. What the hell kind of scheduling is this? Like, this sucks for the Nets. It's truly unfortunate. And like Ronald said, Pelly's coming into this one on 2 days rest, 9-4 against the spread this year on 2 or 3 days rest. So New Orleans rested, has been very good against the number. This just all signs point to our Pelicans blowout here. The only thing that worries me a bit, look at what we're polling here. Every person you know, your mailman, everybody you've ever met has a bet down on the Pelicans tonight. Seriously, 86% to 10% we're polling. So just know that the sportsbooks are going to clean up if Brooklyn wins this game. Just something to keep in mind.
That's the reason why I split the first half and the full game.
Right.
Just in case that back door is open.
Pelicans money line is in every single parlay on the planet tonight. So yeah, this is a little worrisome in that respect, but handicap wise, this is the right move. I mean, Pelicans should blow them out, but it's definitely heavy public side here. And it's a heavy public road favorite to make it even more scary. Mr. Modai.
Yeah, first of all, I love the Pelicans angle in this one. Anytime you could, like, the system of fading a team their first home game after a long road trip, like, that's something that I love to do. That's not my official play. I do really like that one. Even though I love the Pelicans, I do have a 3-point prop for the Nets. It's Cam Thomas. The Pelicans are like the perfect example of a team that has 3-point regression coming against them. Hopefully they can still cover the spread even with that 3-point regression, but they are literally giving up the most wide open 3-point shots in the past 10 games. And guys they're shooting less than 40% on those wide open attempts. Now, I get that they're a long, lanky team, so maybe they can still contest a shot despite the fact that it's considered wide open, 6 feet of space defined by NBA.com, or they're just allowing like guys that they want to shoot wide open, like the Bucks always did that. But either way, they're allowing a ton of attempts, like the second most above the break 3-point attempts allowed in the last 10 games, the third most pull up 3-point attempts allowed in the last 10 games. And even though guys aren't shooting a high percentage, if you just look at shooting guards specifically against their prop, 6 of the last 7 shooting guards have hit their 3-point prop against the Pelicans, and 8 of 11 as well. And some of them have like crushed it. Like Sam Merrill hit 5, Anthony Simons hit 5, Bogdanovic hit 7, Gary Trent Jr. hit 4 on an over-under of 2.5. So some of them are hitting it by just the hook. Some of them are just smoking the over. And Cam Thomas, like, he doesn't pass, he doesn't get rebounds. That's all he cares about is getting buckets. He leads the team in both pull-up 3-point attempts and above the break 3-point attempts as well. I also like the fact, I mean, similar to what I always say, like, he's missed this in 3 straight games. The 3 games prior to that, he cashed it in all 3. And in 2 of those games, he hit 5 3-pointers. So it's only natural for things start to swing back the other way. But in a good matchup against a team that's probably going to dare him to shoot, because they seem to dare like anybody to shoot, I thought the plus 140 odds was really good for him to make 3+ 3-pointers. So that's where I went.
Cam Thomas 3+. Okay, plus 140. To answer a question, someone said, what does the heavy public got to do with the team winning or not? It's not so much that it affects the outcome of the game. It's just the fact that, so obviously we know most of the action is coming in on the Pelicans. This line was at 7.5, then 8, then back down to 7.5, which means one of 2 things. Either A, odds makers are comfortable playing against all that Pelicans money, which means they like their position on Brooklyn, or B, there are professionals, quote unquote, sharp money out there taking the Nets here, which is keeping this line in check. I mean, it's impossible to know which is the reason, but either one should worry you a bit. It's not that like, oh, the team's going to lose because everyone's betting them. It's the fact that the line hasn't gone up to 9.5, 10 yet, despite everyone seemingly betting the Pelicans. That's why that's a factor. So, yeah, looks like we'll see all 3 of us are in agreement here, but Modai went with a Cam Thomas 3-point made prop. 86%. 86% on the Pelicans. So, as I mentioned, everyone's on New Orleans here. Next up, Dallas, San Antonio. I'm curious where Ronald's going to go on this one. All right. So, Actually, let's let Modai went last time, so let's let Modai lead us off here. What do you?
Sure.
Matt, first off, have you noticed the Dallas Mavericks switching their offense up a little bit, attacking the rim more? Do you look at those numbers, or you stick to individual players?
I took the players, so I haven't looked at. I look at what team defenses give up, and then what type of shots individual players take. So I haven't noticed that. But I mean, is it because of Dan Gafford?
Well, I don't know. I think the Celtics are doing the same thing. First half of the season, very reliant on the 3-point shot. Now we're seeing Dallas and Boston top 6 or 7 in rim frequency. So I think maybe it's like, hey, we don't want to get our guys hurt. We're going to shoot for the first half of the season. And then when we need to win games to get seeding at the end, we'll start attacking the rim. Maybe it's some of that. I was just wondering if you noticed that. But I guess that makes sense. You would look at team defense versus individual players rather than team offense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And real quick, someone asked about Cam Johnson. He doesn't attempt as many of catch and shoot / pull up, above the break / pull up. And there are no props out for Cam Johnson. I don't know what's up with him because I think there's no injury designation, but there are no props out for him. Anyways, so for this game, on my own channel, I gave out 2. One of them was Victor Wembanyama points. I had him 25 plus. The odds have moved like aggressively in the opposite way. So I just had a wrong read there. So my official play for this one is the Dan Gafford over 10.5 points. That one I did get positive line movement, which is good. He's been awesome since being traded over from the Wizards and really being traded over, or he's been awesome since the All-Star break in games that he plays with Luka. He's averaging about 21 minutes in his last 10 games with Luka, 25 minutes in his last 5. In games in which he's just played at least 20 with Luka, he's scored 11 or more points in 6 of 8 games. He did miss it in the last 2. To me, I think that's just defenses adjusting a little bit because whenever somebody makes like 30 straight shots, you're probably going to play them a little differently. Now that he's not cooking nearly as much, I'm guessing it's going to go back a little bit to normal. But centers against the Spurs has just been a gold mine recently. Now, some of the centers were way more skilled than Gafford, Şengün, Jokic, Sabonis. Like he's not scoring the same way those guys are. But even when you just look at rim running centers against the Spurs, like they're literally allowing the most points per game to a shooting profile, the second most points per game to a scoring profile. That's the rim running center. And if you just look, if for whatever reason, NBA.com doesn't allow you to filter for a most recent date, but on the entire year, the Spurs are giving up the second most points per game specifically to pick and roll guys. And that's Gafford's just been eating in this role for the Mavericks. So assuming Luka plays, and I'm guessing he will, he's listed as questionable. I think he's going to play. I think like he's just going to catch 6 lobs from Luka, or he's going to get like an offensive rebound and put back, something like that. But you just need 6 buckets here. And I think easily against the Spurs, even in a blowout, I think he could get there.
Yeah. And that plays into what I'm going to say, honestly. So you guys heard what I mentioned about how the Dallas offensive frequency numbers are shifting. This team's now attacking the rim a lot, and they're good at it. I think in the last 5 games, they're 6th in frequency, 5th in efficiency. In the last 10 games, they're like 11th and 9th. So this Dallas team that was so reliant on jump shooters all season is now attacking the rim, and they're very efficient doing it. That plays right into the weakness of the Spurs defense. Everyone thinks the Spurs can protect the basket because Wemby's racking up blocks. It's not the case. I mean, teams are eating at the rim on the Spurs. So this new look, this new look Dallas offense is a nightmare matchup for San Antonio. Here's the thing, though. If you take away the logos, and I said this on Ski's show, if you take away the logos, the teams, literally players' names, everyone, and just look at raw production from these 2 teams, Spurs have been playing pretty well, and there's no way Team B should be laying 8.5 points on the road to Team A if they're nameless. You know what I'm saying? Just based on production from these 2 teams, this line is way off. It should be +3 if you just take out the names. But then you put the names back to it, and we're talking about Mavs versus Spurs. We're talking about a Mavs team that's covered, I think, 6 in a row now. A Mavs team that's been elite as road favorites. A Mavs team that's 11-3 against the spread in their last 14 trips here. They own the Spurs, and they own this city. Dallas almost always covers when they come to San Antonio. In fact, you could pretty much bank. If you've been betting Mavs and overs in this head-to-head series, you are wealthy. Because the Mavs are 11-3 against the spread their last 14 trips to San Antonio. The over is 8-1 in the last 9 meetings between the Mavs and Spurs. So the Mavs always hang a big number on the Spurs. Total goes over and they cover. That's just what happens with these 2 teams. Problem is, this is probably the best basketball the Spurs have been playing in a few years. they're really competitive right now, and I'm not trying to lay 8.5 points to them. So I think I didn't bet this game, but I think the best way to go here, and if depending on what Ronald's about to say, I could see myself placing a bet on this right now if he's in agreement with it. I think the way to go here is right here. Let's just follow the trend. 8-1 in the last 9 meetings between these two. Both teams run the fast break. Neither team can stop the fast break. Dallas should eat at the basket. Dallas defense hasn't been playing well. I mean, not only has this matchup always gone over, but I actually like the over on paper based on recent production. So I think the way to go would be over here. I didn't bet it. Ronald, can you co-sign that?
I mean,
doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, from a total perspective, I didn't really mess with this game just because I had a lot of mixed signals on it. I know one thing for the Spurs side, obviously they're coming off of that OT win. They kind of trended towards the under in the first half. Maybe this is a situation where you kind of wait for that first half to go, get a better number live on the over. That's something that you could potentially do. To be honest, this game here specifically is calling out a live bet too. I think the Mavs do win this game. The number, in my opinion, like you said though, is one of those numbers where they could potentially kind of give it away towards the end of the game. I think they are a little bit tighter than the 8.5 shows. I think one thing to think about too is that letdown situation. I think coming off of that game winner against the Nuggets, I think that's going to be one of those emotional highs that they come down on. One thing that on the Spurs side though, the reason why I didn't want to take the Spurs was because they're coming off an OT win, and that's one thing that I've kind of faded, and it's been pretty profitable. If you look even just this season alone, I believe if you look at this season alone, I looked at teams coming off of a win in OT, just that alone, 30-18 against the spread, 62.5% on the season, and it's hit 8 of the last 9 instances as well. So after the All-Star break, it tends to hit a little bit at a higher rate. I know the Mavs, they've been really good as road favorites this season, 14-3 ATS. But I don't know, the mixed signals on both sides, the total and the side. That's the reason why I didn't really want to mess with it. I mean, from a model perspective, I do have an edge towards the Spurs by just like a couple points. But yeah, I mean, I need everything to line up, for me to make a bet on it. I would lean towards the Mavs. I would probably lean towards the over, especially with the Spurs, kind of playing the way they have been. But other than that, I would say wait for a live bet and take the Mavs maybe towards the second half.
Yeah, if the Spurs can keep it close for a while, I can see that.
Yeah.
So our community is heavily leaning towards Dallas. 64%, 26%. So it looks like everyone's looking to take Dallas here. Everyone's taking favorites today. It's really not the greatest NBA.
It's not.
Yeah. Last game up, Denver at Minnesota. And shout out to Jeffrey in the Discord. He was the one that it was when the Minnesota-Utah game hadn't even ended yet. It was like they were up 6. There was like 50 seconds left. We were all watching because we had Jazz plus 6.5. And he goes, I'm going and taking the Nuggets at -4 right now, and told us all to do it. Of course, I'm an asshole, and I didn't do it because I was like, you know what? I don't really like laying points with the Nuggets, and I'm not going to do it. And then literally the game ends, and within an hour and a half, this line's all the way up to 7. It's now at 7.5. So Jeffrey in the Discord is holding a nice ticket right now, and whoever else tailed him on that. That being said, what do you guys think about this one? I'm thinking the only way I would go is under or maybe Minnesota, but now it looks like Anthony Edwards may not play. So I'm kind of in a bind on this one.
I didn't even realize Anthony Edwards might be out.
He was just added like an hour and a half ago. Let me look. Yeah, questionable.
I think he dislocated his finger
on that dunk.
Yeah.
On that dunk, he slammed on Collins. Oh no, who was that? Was that on Collins?
John Collins.
Yeah, he slammed on Collins, and then
he went
to flex for a second, and then he was like he grabbed this. Yeah, he left the game, but then he came back, so he's listed as questionable. My thoughts on the game are the very obvious slap you in the face take is Minnesota's on a back-to-back with a travel. They were just in Utah last night, immediately had to fly back home to Minnesota. So obviously, Minnesota not in a great spot here. That goes without say. I also want to mention that I don't really like the spot for Denver, though. It's their last game of a 4-game road trip. You got the Nuggets laying 7.5. I mean, the Nuggets haven't been good laying big numbers on the road. They've actually been pretty terrible to bet on in that spot this year. So I understand the reasoning for wanting to bet Denver, but I'm not in a hurry to do it. I say the value in this game, I think there's here's where I see the value in this game, and it's based on just overall performance. Minnesota's offense, I think, is overvalued. Minnesota has a great team, which they are, but their offense hasn't really been good. So I think Minnesota's offense is overvalued, and I think Denver's defense is undervalued, and Denver's offense might be a little overvalued as well. So basically what I'm thinking is I think this is more of a defensive battle than people realize here between Denver and Minnesota. So the way I would go is under, and I'm kind of talking myself into it, but I would like to get it co-signed by one of you gentlemen. and you guys leaning towards an under? Modi, would you go under? I know you were looking at props, but
I would go Minnesota and I would go under. Although I wouldn't touch that until Anthony Edwards plays. I didn't realize that he always plays through questionable tags. Like he never misses games. So hopefully he's fine. If he doesn't play, that would really, I mean, I have Jokic. So my play, I'll just go as Jokic over 25.5 points. It's at minus 120. I just kind of, like Jokic is like almost on a do not touch list unless he's playing in some of these bigger matchups. And I will say he has been playing better recently. He's gone over this number in 5 of his last 8 games. One game he missed, he had exactly 25. He's actually scored 30 or more points in 4 of those games he went over. And like Jokic is one of those guys where he really could score whenever he wants. Like I'm not always going to be concerned about a matchup, but if there's one area where the Timberwolves defense, I'm not going to say is weak, but they kind of just funnel shots. It's not at the rim because that's where Rudy Gobert is, and it's not on the perimeter. It's like in that sweet spot and the NBA defines it as in the paint, but not in the restricted area. They allow literally the most shot attempts in the last 10 games in this spot of the floor and the 4th most makes. So they still guard it pretty well. That's just like where they funnel shots because no one's going to go to the rim against them and they don't allow anything on the perimeter. And that's Jokic, like even though he's a center, that's the spot where Jokic eats, is in that sweet spot. He literally leads he's second in the NBA and made field goals from that spot in the past 10 games. So the hope here is that this is a game where Jokic tries to score because he sometimes has games, even in important ones like the Mavs. Last game, he scored like 13 points, 16 points, whatever it was. So I will admit this one is a little bit risky, especially if Anthony Edwards ends up not playing. But, I mean, these teams are tied for second in the Western Conference, so you hope they're going to be giving effort. So that's the hope. If Jokic tries, he'll get to 26 points. If he doesn't, he won't. So let's hope he tries.
Over 25.5 points. I will say Minnesota's defense at the rim, which has been one of the most elite units in the NBA. Minnesota protecting the basket. Last 10 games, they're like 27th or something protecting the rim. Not saying all of a sudden Minnesota's defense at the basket is bad. It's a small sample size, but something to take note of is Minnesota struggling to protect the interior, and now they're on a back-to-back. I could see that. Maybe Jokic eats at the rim in this one, puts up a 30-piece. Ronald.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm right on the under.
I mean, like you're half right, half wrong. I don't know. Well, so if you look at the Nuggets, this is an under situation for them. They're more rested than their opponent. The last 6 instances where they're more rested than their opponent, they've gone under. But if you look at the Wolves side, they're an over team on the second of back-to-backs, 8-2 to the over. So that's where where that balance, on the over/under is at, where they kind of go competing against each other. The thing about the spot here, the spot says the Nuggets, but the Nuggets spots are not what they typically are. I guess doing well at. If you look at the rest advantage, they're not profitable backing them when they're rested more than their opponent. 3rd and 4, I think it's 3rd and 4 when they're favored, playing at least 3rd game in a row. Yeah, so when they're favored and playing at least a 3rd game in a row, this is I think 4th road game in a row for them now.
Yeah, 4-game road trip.
7-1 against the spread, 7-1 to the under. So that backs your under.
Wait. 7-1 against the spread. So on the Nuggets,
the Nuggets are favored and playing at least their 3rd game in a row. So travel situation, right? 4-4 straight up, but 0-7-1 against the spread. Oh my
God! So these long road trips has been terrible.
On the road. And this is why I initially was about to run to the window on the Nuggets when obviously when that guy said the -4, I was running to the window, and when I did my deep dive, I was like, wait a second, these are situations they're not taking advantage of. So not only that road favorite situation, but when they're rested against unrested teams, they're only 1-4-1 against the spread. I think what happens is they tend to over adjust the number because they're still winning these games. They're just not covering the number. And now we're seeing a 7.5. To me, it seems like they're doing it again. They're over adjusting. So this might be a situation where the Wolves, regardless of whether or not Ant plays, this number might be a little bit too high. And that's the reason why I kind of stayed off of this game, is because of those reasons. The revenge angle too. I think, is it a double-digit revenge? I think they lost by double digits in the previous game. 4-6-1 against the spread, seeking revenge this season for the Nuggets. So they're really not taking advantage of these spots that we typically look at, and that's the reason why I stayed off.
Let's see what they played. Denver. So they beat Denver by by 21. But that was all the way back in November.
Yeah.
Oh wow, they haven't played them since then. So they haven't played them since November, but they beat them by 21.
Mm-hmm.
So gun to your head, you're forced to choose.
I would lean Wolves. I would lean the under, but
I think I would lean that way too.
I'm gonna sit out. Yeah.
All right, so our community likes the Nuggets here, pretty heavily actually. 59% to 26% in favor of Denver. So, yeah, a lot of you guys betting the Nuggets out there. That's interesting what Ronald said about how the Nuggets have a bad record against the spread when they're more rested than their opponent. So here, and they're 0-7-1 against the spread on road trips when they get to the third game or higher. So basically,
when they're the favorite.
When they're the favorite. Okay, when they're the favorite.
So they're winning the game. They're just not covering.
That's crazy. So yeah, that would point me towards Minnesota. All right. So how about a community parlay? You see the one guy is in there. He kept complaining about the community parlay. Like, dude, it's just a fun bet that we do as a group. It's not supposed to be like.
I jokingly make fun of it just because I haven't won yet.
Oh yeah, Ronald's still searching for his first community parlay. If you're joining looking to like bet the community parlay as a way to realistically turn a profit long term, Lord help you. Just Lord help you. All right, so we got Magic minus 13. I'm gonna put in there. Rockets Wizards, they like Rockets, but I'm gonna put Rockets minus 10 because Rockets money line. Pelicans money line we'll put, that'll be in there. And Dallas minus 9, we'll put Dallas money line because they're under 10. First and second are getting in. It's going to be hard on this one. There's only 5 options. Someone said RC wants it bad, though. He needs community parlay win bad.
Yeah, I do. I think I might be the only guest that hasn't won yet.
Tyler W. says, what? You guys aren't putting half your bankroll on the community parlay? What have I been doing? That guy gets it.
I think yesterday, too, I was in the chat yesterday, and I was like, Pacers are going to sell.
Yeah. Glad I didn't bet that one. Should have trusted my instincts, man. I knew that Heat line was weird. But whatever. I mean...
funky, because I think a couple guys were ruled out for the Sixers, and the line didn't move at all.
Yeah.
I think Tobias Harris was...
That was a weird game.
And from the beginning... I was like, this whole thing doesn't feel right. This whole line, I would have had it. I thought a perfect line for that game in that situation would have been Heat minus 1.5, Heat minus 1. So then when I got in a Heat plus 3.5, and it just didn't feel right from the beginning. I even said it. I said it on the video I uploaded. I said it on the live show. People even in the comments are like, Kyle, you knew the Heat were going to lose. You just didn't. You just bet them anyway. It happens though. But you know what? Sometimes I have that feeling the bet still wins. So Pelicans money line. Let's get it up. Pelicans money line, Magic minus 13 are the first 2 legs. Pelicans money line, Magic minus 13. So nobody voted for Rockets minus 10. So then, we have to do another poll though. So we'll go Dallas money line, Rockets minus 10, and then what's the last game? Oh, T-Wolves. They voted for Nuggets. Nuggets money line. All right. What is the? We'll go first and second here. So basically, only one game's gonna get left out because there's only 5. You know what we should have done is put totals in the community parlay because we have such a small amount.
That's a good idea. Next time.
Yeah. I should have thought of that before. It's gonna be Rockets left out. So ready for the chalkiest thing of all time. Pelicans money line.
That means I might win.
Yeah, you might get one. So it's Pelicans money line, Magic minus 13, Mavericks money line, Nuggets money line. Guess on the, I'm going to say plus 399. Show me plus 399. Price is right.
Give me 1 second. Sorry, I was slacking. All right, so read it out again. Pelicans
money line, Magic minus 13, Mavericks money line, Nuggets money line. Actually, I'm going to say plus 309 instead.
327.
Close.
We got a chance.
You're in play.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah. Ronald looking to get on the board here with his first community parlay. Meanwhile, Ski's got like an 800 batting average with community parlays. All right. So everyone, thanks for watching. We'll be back, by the way, I'll be back in an hour and 15 minutes. We're filling out our March Madness brackets live. I got 3 guests coming on. We're all going to fill out our brackets live on the show. I made graphics for it. So you're literally going to see us filling out our brackets.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. I've never done this before with these kind of graphics, so we'll see. So if you want to come back 6 p.m. Eastern time, we'll see you then. Make sure you follow these guys. Their Twitter's right underneath them. They both put out a lot of content, some good stuff. So make sure you support them by clicking the follow button on them. Let's have ourselves a good night. I would say bet light tonight. It's not the most exciting basketball night. And this weekend, we got March Madness. We got a bunch of NBA. This is a big weekend. So maybe go light tonight. But whatever you do, bet responsibly. And I'll be in the Discord if you need me. Later.
See ya.